Hola, hola! Welcome to the Breakthrough Brand Show. I'm Fabi Paolini, and my mission on this podcast is to give you the behind-the-scenes stories, anecdotes, and unique perspectives behind building a premium brand that makes a real impact. I believe that when you create a message that is aligned with your truth, you can have the breakthroughs that changes lives. Each week, me and my guests share with you how we're making an impact with our message and the stories behind our success. So that being said, let's dive into today's episode. I'm so excited today to welcome Elizabeth Pampalone to the podcast. She is a marketing minimalist, content creator. Let me start over. Sorry, I'm saying everything wrong. I'm so excited today to welcome Elizabeth Pampalone to the podcast. She is a marketing minimalist, a content creator, an international speaker, an innovator podcaster, and she's developed proven formulas that help herself and her clients to create 1 year of marketing content in 5 days. I definitely want to find out about that. Welcome to the podcast, Elizabeth. Can you tell us a little bit about you in your own words?
Well, thanks for having me. I actually started out in the computer repair space. I owned a computer repair company for 10 years. And before that, I actually had gotten a web design degree that I was only using for myself because I had a computer repair company, which wasn't really web design related, but I did my own website. Mm-hmm. And then I realized that that was kind of my first love. So I went back to doing that and opened a marketing agency, started helping small business owners. And after I sold the computer repair company, I realized that the way marketing was being done was not working for not only myself, because I was getting burnt out, but also for all my clients. They were just burnt out themselves. And so I developed a new formula, a new way of doing things, which is to create 1 year of marketing content in 5 days. And I've been doing that ever since.
That's amazing. So how do you do it? I'm curious to find out. I mean, I know that you're not going to give us all the details, but I'm curious to find out how you break down doing so much content in just 5 days.
Well, the first thing you have to have is a great brand. And I spend an entire 8-hour day with my clients on their brand. We create not only their visual part of their brand, but also their mission, their vision, the values that they hold as a company. Also things like, their message, like their actual core message. And it can just be a tagline. It could be an elevator pitch, whatever that needs to look like as far as length. But really, it's that core message. And a lot of companies don't have that off the top of their heads. They say, well, we do this and we do this and we do this. They kind of just throw out a bunch of things. And so this branding day really helps us to get to the bottom of that piece. Then that kind of influences, well, now what does the visual look like? Who are we actually trying to attract? Who is the target audience? All of that part of that branding is going into this. And then we create things like collateral, business cards, brochures, any kind of like paper goods that they're going to need to get printed. And then we also create an ebook or an opt-in on that same branding day. So this is all in 1 8-hour period. And there's no prep that I require my clients to do because I feel like they're already stressed enough. And if they knew what to do, they probably would have already done it. Right. And so really all this stuff is done, written, designed, scheduled, whatever in that day, because again, they don't really know where to start. So I've just streamlined the process to be able to ask the right questions of the client and actually get them to focus on one thing at a time. So instead of them running around trying to do a brand and a website and social media and all these different things, it's like, let's just focus on the brand. Once we get that done, can move on to the next piece. And so each day that I work with clients, it's an 8-hour day and we physically sit together most of the time, unless they're overseas. And we actually just knock out a set list of things that I have for each day. And that includes things like I said, the brand. The second day we go into the website, build the website from scratch and launch it live. I mean, it's rolling. It's ready to go. You could send it to your friends and have them, book a call with you or whatever. Then we build 12 months of social posts in a day, 12 months of blog posts in a day. We also do things like create e-commerce in a day, create membership marketing plans in a day. So creating your membership in a day. And then doing things like podcast hosting in a day, podcast guesting in a day, and of course, email marketing and funnels in a day. So really just taking each of those pieces of marketing that's so important and just giving it its own space, and then also giving it its own time frame. So you're not saying, we got 4 weeks to create all this stuff. No, you got 8 hours. Let's get it done.
I love that. That is so cool. Sorry, I kind of interrupted you, but that is amazing. Okay, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. But it's about, using Parkinson's law, which says if you give a task a certain amount of time, it's going to take that amount of time. I always use the example of emptying the dishwasher. If you do it 10 minutes before your mom comes over, you only have 10 minutes. She's coming right now, right? Like you got to empty the dishwasher before she
Do
before she
it.
gets there.
Right.
And so, but if you're like, oh, mom will be here for another hour, take you about an hour to do that task, even though in reality it only takes 10 minutes. So once you have set a set time assigned to a task, something this big as building a website, it really can only take the time that you give it. So we give it 8 hours, and that's how long it takes.
That's amazing. I love this. And I'm kind of interested as well. Like obviously from the perspective of what your clients are getting, but I'm kind of really interested in you coming up with this business model. Can you tell me a little bit about how you kind of made the decision to do this? Because it sounds like obviously you're working intensive for 5 days for a week, basically with your clients, getting everything done, and that's it. But I'm super curious because it's not a common business model, or at least I haven't heard it as much. But I'm kind of curious to how you came to that yourself.
Well, I was doing traditional marketing. So I'd opened my firm, I was running my other business. And when I sold that other business, I was just running the firm. So, like, just running this marketing firm. And I was realizing that what was happening was traditional marketing says 4 weeks to build a website. And you might even tack on 2 weeks to build a brand. Okay. So you got your 2 weeks for your brand and your 4 weeks for your website. There are milestones along the way. The client has to help you out. Right. So I'm doing all this. I set a price. I only could get 2 clients in per month based on the amount of work that had to be done for each client, and also the amount of follow-up that had to be done for each client. So I was really limited in the amount of work I could take in at one time, just as like a solopreneur. And so I ended up, working with these clients, and then they would say, I'm too busy for you. And I'm like,
Right.
you hired me. And first of all, you haven't even paid me all my money yet. So I'm sitting here waiting. And it was stressing myself out, trying to get them to like push them up the hill, basically, of this marketing hill. And they didn't want to do it, and they didn't have time. And so what would happen is I'd say, okay, I'm going to charge you extra if you go over your deadline. So if you go past the 6 weeks, that's it. It's $500 a day. And you're going to I wanted to make the penalty super steep, so it would be really a deterrent for them. And what would end up happening, and this happened I think 5 months in a row. And then I started realizing, wait a minute. What ended up happening was my clients would basically get to the day 31 of the last day of the contract. And they would say, oh, are you busy? I've got all my stuff. And they would just flood my inbox. I would have to cancel all my appointments that day because I felt obligated as the provider. I have to get this done for them, right? And I didn't want to be the delay that caused them the overages and everything. So I would literally work with them via phone and okay, I did the page. Go look at it. Can you tell me what you think? Okay, what about this? And it was just this super weird phone tag, email tag, sending links. And it was just fury of a day. And I would do this for 4 to 6 hours, sometimes 8 hours in that day. And then I was like, gosh darn it, if I could just get them in a room for one day and then ask them all these questions and get them to approve all this stuff right in front of me, and they could see it while I was doing it instead of me spending 2 hours building something and then them looking at it going, no, I don't like that.
Right.
It just didn't make sense to me. And so then I realized I'm going to stop the burnout for both of us. And I also realized if I could build a website in a day, instead of getting 2 website clients a month, I could have 30. I could have 30 website clients a month, really, realistically. And that just seemed way more appealing to me. So I cut my prices a little more in half, 60%. And I said, I give you one day and you get a website. And I had my first client come to me and she said, well, I need a website, but I need a brand and I need social media. And I'm like, perfect. That's 3 days. I had no idea what I was doing at that point. I didn't know I could build a brand in a day. I didn't know I could build 12 months of social posts in a day. I just said, yes, I will. I will figure it out. Easy. And it was the best 3 days I've ever spent up to that point with a client. The other days I had spent with clients were so arduous and me trying to get them to perceive the value. And I was just trying to really sell my product and get them to understand everything and get them to give me back stuff that at this point, she sat there in front of me. I asked her a question. She said, yes or no. I asked her a question. She said, well, what do you think of this? And I said, let's tweak that a little bit. And we would write it up in a shared document. and everything just flowed so well. So from then I didn't look back, and I literally redid my entire website and said, this is all we do. 1-day projects. Don't ask us for anything else because it doesn't exist.
That's amazing. I love how you adapted for yourself and for your clients. Like, it's amazing. So I'm going to ask something that I'm curious about, and maybe you don't know much about it. I would imagine that you do, but are you leveraging right now ChatGPT to help in this process? I'm not sure if you are, but I'm just kind of curious about that.
So I wrote a very snarky, long LinkedIn expose on a blog post on this. So ChatGPT to me right now is the flash in the pan. It's the thing that's like flashy and like, oh my gosh, look at us, we're over here. And I feel like I've been in this industry long enough to be able to see the trends as they come down. And I know that AI is not going anywhere, and I know that's here to stay for pretty much the most part. But what I've found is that people are looking at this system as if it was literally me, like what I do and the expertise I have.
Right.
And that's not what it's for. And so I was talking with another colleague of mine through LinkedIn in the comments and stuff. And he's like, no, it could never replace you. Duh. Which a lot of people think it can, replace the strategist part. And he goes, I use it because I can put in a transcript and get a summary, or I can put in, I want the top 5 tips to market your business, and I can get a starting point for a blog post.
Right.
And I was like, exactly. This is supposed to be a tool. But what I found is a lot of people have been using it as the replacement for a marketer in a sense, and it writes all their content for them. And so I see that as soon as that kind of starts taking off a little bit more, because it's already at 1 million users, over 1 million users in like 5 days, ridiculousness, all the content's going to start looking the same.
Exactly.
And so I'm not really on board with it as far as that goes. I know there's some things it can do that I feel like would be helpful, but for our strategies and what we do right now, it's not even a part of it, because our strategies already work so well and so quickly before that even came around, that we're going to stick with that for now. If it becomes a tool that I see has some staying power and some longevity, then I will definitely incorporate it. For example, some of the systems we use now, I was totally against 5 years ago. So I totally have done the 180 before, but as of this point, I'm watching it and I'm waiting. And I'm kind of advising people to do the same, because it's like, either you jump in now and you kind of ruin your own reputation in a sense, or you jump in a few weeks or a few months and no harm done, right? So just kind of giving people a heads up to like, hang on a second.
I agree. I feel like it's a tool. I don't think that it will ever replace people. I mean, it can, I guess, in certain areas, but not when you are the strategist, and not because, again, like you said, it comes up with great content, but not anything that's like groundbreaking. And I feel like in marketing, oftentimes you need the groundbreaking content to be able to really get across to your client. And on top of that, nothing can replace human stories and emotions and connection and any of that. So I have been using it in my business, but I've been using it to like, I'll give it a post that I already wrote, and I will tell it, can you write me a summarized version of this, or can you give me hashtags that I can use for this post, or can you give me like the SEO analysis of this so that I know what I can include into my blog, stuff like that. But never to come and say, okay, let's write my content and just you do you and I'll do it. I don't think it's gonna work like that.
Because I actually had another marketer tell me that they were doing content in a day as well, and I was like, oh, okay, well, tell me how you do that. And he goes, we just use ChatGPT. And I was like, well, that's not necessarily.
Not the same. Exactly. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so coming back to what we're talking about, I was just remembered ChatGPT. I was like, I wonder what Elizabeth thinks about this. Okay, I really love your system and the way that you do things. How, like, when you think about, so do you, obviously you're analyzing what specific platforms the client is going to be using. You're creating written posts. Are you also recording videos for them as well, or giving them at least the script? Or
Yeah, so in the day, we don't have enough time to record the
Right. I
videos.
was going to say,
Unfortunately, it's
that's
like
a
it's such a
lot.
short time frame. So what we actually try to do for a lot of our clients, and we just did this last week with a client, is we create their what we call scheduled or non-live posts. We
Okay.
write, design, and schedule all of those. And that's a good a third to two-thirds of their week,
Mhm.
of scheduling and posting. And then we also create them what we call a live schedule. It's
Okay.
not Facebook Live. It's more real-time
I get
posting.
that.
And so basically that includes doing reels, things like that. And we give them the ideas so that when they do get to that point and they say, okay, it's Monday, we're supposed to do a reel today, there's a list of reels for them to pick from. And these are not necessarily always timely because they can always find something timely. Like that's always easy when something's just top of mind and you're like, oh, we got to do a reel about this. But when there's something that, there's nothing timely and it's just kind of a regular Monday and nothing's happening, they can go to that list, they can pull something from it, and they can do a short reel on it. Also with TikTok strategies, same kind of thing. We just try to set them up for as much success because some of the stuff does have to be done live. You just have to. But there's also the thing about with the reels, one of our clients was talking about using them on TikTok and on Instagram.
Mhm.
And so they were able to do some recorded versions of those. So they were actually able to take that list we had written, divvy it up amongst their team, have each of their team record the pieces, and then have one person kind of put it into the TikTok format with the music and all that stuff.
That
And the
sounds,
little badges and things.
that's,
So it's a great way to like give them the framework, but as much as we possibly can, I want you writing it, I want you scheduling it, I want you designing it, and I want it off your plate done. Like you don't have to look at it ever again.
that's amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay. So who is your ideal client? Who is the person that is your perfect fit?
So for the in-person in a day sessions, it's definitely the like solopreneur, two-person team. They're like so overwhelmed that this is like the last thing on their to-do list. They're not writing blog posts, they're not pushing out podcasts. Their website is a mess. They don't even send people to it because they're so embarrassed. Like their brand is not really conveying anything to anybody. And so it's those people that just have gotten so in the weeds with everything, or they've had a company kind of lead them astray a little bit, that they have to just need a clean slate. Let's start over and get you a fresh start, and also get you 1 year ahead of yourself, which most people would be like, sign me up. And
Exactly.
then we also work with small teams. I find this is a very big hole right now. There's a lot of companies that will do it for you, right? You just hand it off and like they do it and you don't even really know what's happening over there. And then there's companies like mine that will like train you or teach you or do it one-on-one with you. But the teams I feel like are getting missed. And so we've developed a system right now that we're offering this year where I'll take the 5-day approach and we'll spread it across 5 weeks. And then we sit down in virtual sessions with the owner and their team. It could be their remote team, it could be their VA, it could be 10 people on their team, whoever that is, that those people don't always know how to they know how to execute, but they don't always know how to strategize. And
Mhm.
the owner might know how to strategize, but doesn't know how to tell the team to execute it. And so there's like this disconnect where they kind of are like the team's waiting for the owner to give them something and the owner's waiting for the team to give them some ideas, and then they just don't know how to like connect the two pieces. And so we take both the owner and the teams through the 5-day process, but week by week. So they have time to go away, execute it, come back, get feedback, get ideas, and then go to the next piece, start the next execution pieces, and then go away, execute it, come back, get feedback. So it's more of taking that 5-day process and putting it into a 5-week process, but we're not implementing it, on the spot with them. We're spending like an hour with the team each week, but it's also a short-term thing. We're trying to give them the tools for communication and how the owners get more out of their teams, because those teams have good ideas. The owners
Right.
always just don't know how to get the ideas out of them.
Mhm. That sounds amazing. That's incredibly powerful. Okay, so last question that I have, it's a question that I like to ask everybody, and it's kind of a little bit off topic, but I still want to know. I want to know what role personal development has played in your own entrepreneurial journey, because we all know that this entrepreneurial thing is quite a bit there's quite a bit of internal stuff going on for all of us. So I'm curious to hear a little bit about what that has looked like for you, and how do you prioritize it in your own life?
So I go to a lot of networking events locally, and I think that's still one of the best ways to market your business. Obviously online, which I love doing online stuff, but there's a lot of really great stuff literally right in your own backyard. And even people who live in remote areas, they can still get to some local things, which I think is pretty cool. And so I have been going to one of my events that I go to as a book club, and they're on hiatus right now, but basically every month they read a different personal development book or business development book. And I have read some really interesting books through that group that I never would have picked up off the shelf by myself. And I think the most impactful one for my own personal development, but also for the business, was Profit First. And so not only did that like change my business mindset around money and how I actually brought in cash and how cash flow works, but also around my personal finances as well, because it kind of can be like separating, like, oh, I can do this over here too. So I think that was probably the most impactful book. And I actually keep several copies in my car. So every time I go to an event and I'm like, hey, have you read Profit First? And they're like, no, I've never even seen that. I'm like, let me go get you a copy, because it was that impactful to me. So I give them away all the time.
I love that. Well, I love everything. I think that you're doing amazing things. Can you tell people how they can find you, how they can hire you, how can they reach out to you, or whatever you have to offer to my audience?
Absolutely. So our website is getabsolutemarketing.com, and there's a free page, which everyone loves free stuff. I actually have all the tools that we use for ourselves in my business and for our clients. So some tools I don't need for my business, but my clients have needed. We put it together in a list called the Pro Toolkit. It's all free. You just put your email in and you get this entire list. It's constantly being updated. So if I find a new tool that's better, I replace it in the toolkit. If I find a new tool that's not even represented there, I put that in the toolkit. So it's constantly this living document that's always being updated. And then we also have the free library, which is all the videos I've ever done, all the trainings I've ever done, stuff that's never been seen except in private groups and also in some memberships that I had previously. I opened that all up free last year. So you can just download any of those things. We have a 5-day challenge. We have PDFs that you can download, worksheets, all kinds of stuff in there. So it's entirely free. And then this year we're releasing free our Do This First series, which is 365 daily tasks, one thing at a time, just one thing a day, to actually build your credibility and boost your bottom line. And that's all through marketing. So these are very small baby little tasks that you do every day to basically do all the stuff we do in the 5-day, but you do it little incremental bits all through the year.
I love that. That's amazing. Well, it was a pleasure having you here, Elizabeth. Thank you so much.
You.
And go check her out for sure.
Thank you so much.
Gracias for listening to today's episode of the Breakthrough Brand Show. To listen to more episodes or to be featured as a guest, go to fabipaolini.com/podcast for more details. Can I ask you for something? If you got value out of this episode, would you share it on social media? Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend, or just post it online. If you know somebody that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let me know about the show and include the hashtag Breakthrough Brand Show. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We're regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure that you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe right now. Your thumbs up, rating, amor, love, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean so much to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, fabipaolini.com, or follow me everywhere as Fabi Paolini. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Con amor, Fabi.